Okay, so today we are going to be doing lesson 3 of our social studies, which is focused on the Golden Age of Athens. So when we talk about a golden age, that means that it's a time where everything is going really well. So they're making money, they're making new things, there's a lot of accomplishments, everything's going good. So that's what it means by a golden age. And it's also usually a time of peace. There's not any war going on. All right, so let's go over our vocabulary words for this lesson. First, we have a marathon, which is a long race based on an ancient Greek legend. Philosopher, which is a person who studies truth and knowledge. Reason, which is logical thinking. And logical just means it's something that makes sense. Plague is a fast-spreading disease that is often deadly. And a mercenary is a hired soldier. Usually they're hired to go kill someone. Okay, so before we get into this, let's look at what our questions are that we're going to be looking at. So remember, it's a good idea to fill out the main idea and details chart at the end after you've read everything. Because right now we don't know what the main idea is. Number 2 is, what was the Delian League? Number 3 is, why was the Battle of Salamis important to Greece? 4, what were some of the fields of study in which Athens excelled during its golden age? Excelled means performed really well at. And number 5 is a critical thinking question where we're going to solve complex problems. So it's asking, what advice would you have given to the leaders of Athens that might have helped them avoid the problems that developed? Use the word reason in your answer. Okay. So we're going to start, just because I've read this, I know we're going to first be looking for number 3. Why was the Battle of Salamis important to Greece? Okay. The Greeks clash with the Persians. In 490 BC, Persia attacked the Greek mainland with a huge army. Persia was the most powerful empire of its time. The Persian and Athenian armies battled on a plain northeast of Athens called Marathon. The Athenians won. According to legend, a warrior ran 25 miles to Athens with the news. Today, the marathon is a long race based on the Greek legend. The Athenians and the Spartans were enemies, but they knew the Persians would attack again. They joined forces to fight the Persians. In 480 BC, the Athenian ships destroyed the Persian fleet in the Battle of Salamis. This battle ended the war. So if we remember from our last lesson where we were learning about the Athenians and Spartans, they didn't like each other, but they teamed up in order to defeat the Persians. So the Athenian ships destroyed the Persian fleet. Fleet is like a group of ships. So the Athenian ships defeated the Persian ships. And when they did that, it was in the Battle of Salamis. And that battle ended the whole war. So, number 3 is, why was the Battle of Salamis important to Greece? Well, it says that this battle ended the war because that's when the Athenian ships destroyed the Persian fleet in the Battle of Salamis. So you're going to find your answer for that one right down in here. Number 3. All right, next we're going to be looking for, what were some of the fields of study in which Athens excelled during its golden age? So I see it says golden age here and golden age here. So I know my answer is probably going to be somewhere in here. All right. After defeating the Persians, Athens entered a period known as the Golden Age. Athens built beautiful new temples, statues, and monuments. Greek philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle studied truth and knowledge. Greek philosophers respected reason or logical thinking. They thought people could figure out why things happened in nature. They did not think things happened just because the gods caused them to. Greek physicians studied the causes of sickness. So before we were learning about the gods and goddesses that they thought lived on Mount Olympus, and they thought that those gods made a lot of the decisions of their world. And during this time, when there were the philosophers, they started thinking about it, and they wanted to find the truth about everything. And they started to think that there was more to what was happening than just the gods causing things to happen. So, what were some of the fields of study that they were really good at during this time? Well, let's see. They built beautiful new temples, statues, and monuments. So it sounds like they were good at that. Then they also had these philosophers, these thinkers that wanted to study truth and knowledge. And we had Greek physicians or doctors who were studying why people got sick, what was causing people to get sick. So here we have a lot of different things. We have a lot of details that we could add. Okay, so we have a lot of stuff there for number 4. And remember, we're not just copying all of these things and just plopping them down here. We're going to restate our question and make sure that we're listing everything and putting some of it in our own words. All right, so that's 3 and 4. Let's go back to number 2. What was the Delian League? All right. The Greeks fight against each other. Athens was the most powerful Greek city-state during the Golden Age. Athenian leaders formed an alliance or group that works together called the Delian League. The Athenians forced some city-states to join the league. They used the league's money to put up buildings in Athens. This angered other city-states. Sparta led the angry city-states. A war between Sparta and Athens began in 431 BC. It was called the Peloponnesian War. Sparta had great power on the land. Athens' navy had great power on the sea. This made it hard for either city-state to win the war. Then a plague broke out in Athens. A plague is a deadly, fast-spreading disease. The plague killed thousands of people, including the leader of Athens. Athens surrendered in 404 BC. So Sparta and Athens, they were on a team here fighting against the Persians, but remember they were enemies. So after the Golden Age, then they started fighting again. And Sparta was really good at fighting on land, and Athens had a lot of power fighting on the sea with their ships. So it was like a really close war until this plague broke out and started just killing a lot of people. And it killed the leader of Athens. And then at that point is when Athens had to surrender and give up. So, but back up here, what caused all of those problems was the form of an alliance. An alliance is a group that works together. So Athenian leaders put together this group that they called the Delian League. And they started using their money to put up buildings in Athens. But the other city-states were like, okay, well, you're not putting up any buildings in our city-states, so they got mad. All right? But so this Delian League right here is what the question is asking about. So you're going to see, so that was like an alliance of people, of Athenian leaders, that they were working together, and they were putting up buildings. So, and also, I mean, you can think about it, you'd probably be mad too. If you were forced to join this group, and then all the money was just going to making buildings that in another community, it wasn't even your community, even though you had to be part of this group, you'd probably be mad too. So that's for number 2. Okay. Now, we're going to think about our critical thinking problem about what advice would we give Athens to help them avoid the problems that developed. So we learned about some of the problems that were happening right here. There's also, we're going to read this. Decline of the Greek city-states. In Greece, hard times followed the war. Many young Greek men became mercenaries or hired soldiers in the Persian army. Athens regained its strength in trade, but all of Greece was weakened. Sparta had lost many soldiers in the war. In 371 BC, Sparta lost a battle against the Greek city Thebes. Macedonia was to the north of Greece. Macedonia grew in power and became a great threat to Greece. So all of these problems started happening, and it seems like all of those problems stemmed from this war between the Spartans and the Athenians called the Peloponnesian War. And again, a lot of that had to do with the fact that this Delian League was created that was putting up buildings only in Athens, even though other city-states were part of it. So how could you use reason, which remember is that logical, sensical thinking, how could you use reason to have helped them fix their problems? What would you have told them to prevent all of those problems from happening? All right, and number 1, the main idea and details. So here we have some details. Athenian artists created beautiful statues and monuments. Athenian philosophers extended human knowledge. And Greek physicians studied the causes of illness. Those were all things that we learned about that were accomplishments during the Golden Age. So your job is to come up with the main idea of this. So here's the details. They were building all these monuments. They were studying truth and knowledge. They were studying the causes of illness. What's the main idea of all of that stuff? Okay? And remember to make sure that when you're answering these questions that you're restating. So what does that look like? Well, for number 2, what was the Delian League? So we would start out the Delian League that pen is going. Okay, so what was the Delian League? The Delian League was, and then you're going to write your answer. So this shows how you restate. Why was the Battle of Salamis important to Greece? So we're going to say the Battle of Salamis was important to Greece because, and then you're going to give your answer and make sure you have capitals at the beginning of your sentence and periods at the end. So that shows you how we're going to restate the question. All right, best of luck with this, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comments or talk to me about it in class. Good luck.